The first battlefield is not in your bank account, not in your circumstances, and not in the opinions of others. It is in your mind. That's where every battle for greatness begins, and for most people, that's also where it ends. Before your life changes, your mindset has to shift. Before your money grows, your vision has to stretch. You don't wake up wealthy. You don't stumble into success. It is something you decide to pursue and prepare to carry. You train yourself to think differently, to expect differently, to act with purpose even when results are still invisible. It starts inside before it ever shows up on the outside. If you're waiting for everything to look right before you believe it's possible, you'll be waiting for the rest of your life. Thinking rich is not about pride, it's about posture. It's not about walking around pretending you've made it. It's about preparing like you already know you will. It's about setting your mind on where you're going, not where you are. People often live in cycles of frustration, not because they're incapable, but because their thoughts are caged. They are imprisoned by fear, past experiences, and generational patterns that keep them small, reactive, and tired. If you want to break out of that, you don't start with money. You start with your mentality. Money follows value, opportunity follows preparation, and wealth flows to people who have already made up their minds to carry it with character. A rich mindset doesn't wait for doors to open. It builds the skill sets, habits, and attitude that make it impossible for doors to stay closed. It wakes up with intention. It does more than what is expected. It invests time like it's gold and energy like it's capital. It reads, it listens, it learns. It watches closely and speaks strategically. Thinking rich means you no longer entertain conversations that don't build you. You don't waste energy on complaints. You don't give your attention to distractions. You become a protector of your focus because you understand that wherever your attention goes, your future flows. The problem for most people isn't a lack of ambition. It's that their mindset is too noisy with the wrong voices. They're surrounded by small talk, fear talk, excuse talk. They hear voices that say, people like you don't make it. It's too late. Just be realistic. And so they start playing safe, living within the lines others drew for them. But the truth is, your background doesn't determine your breakthrough. Your environment doesn't decide your end. Your mindset does. If you can think bigger, you can move bigger. If you can believe higher, you can build higher. But belief doesn't just happen. You have to guard it, feed it, and train it like a muscle. You don't need a miracle to start. You need a shift. A shift in how you see yourself, how you speak to yourself, and how you show up daily. People with a rich mindset understand that they are in training long before they ever see the reward. They're not motivated by applause. They are driven by assignment. They don't wait for someone to validate them. They validate their own potential through discipline and diligence. They treat their vision like it already has value, even when no one's buying, even when no one's watching. Because they understand that it's not the stage that makes you worthy, it's the sweat behind the scenes. There's a difference between dreaming and doing. A rich thinker knows how to transition from one to the other. They understand that thoughts alone don't change a life. It's the actions attached to those thoughts. You've got to move like it matters. You've got to wake up like you're responsible for a future that doesn't exist yet, but needs your belief to be built. This is not fantasy. This is not hype. This is about becoming intentional with your life, becoming serious about who you are and where you're going. There's a version of you that the world needs, but it won't show up unless you think like that person, speak like that person, and act like that person long before anyone else sees it. People who think rich speak a different language. They don't say if, they say when. They don't say I hope, They say I prepare. They don't say someday. They say today. They live by principle, not emotion. They make decisions rooted in their destiny, not based on their current discomfort. And even when life throws them setbacks, they don't sit down and sulk. They evaluate, adjust, and continue. Because failure doesn't scare someone who knows their future is greater than their past. They understand that each mistake is part of the mastery. Each delay is shaping their discipline. Each rejection is redirection to something better. You've got to stop trying to impress people and start trying to impact people. Thinking rich is not about appearances. It's about alignment. Aligning your mindset with your mission, aligning your habits with your hope, aligning your energy with your excellence. You don't become wealthy by copying someone else's life. You become wealthy by creating the life that was designed for you. But design takes intention. It takes courage to stop playing small. It takes strength to walk away from the crowd. It takes grit to keep working in the dark. But if you want the reward, you've got to respect the work. The process always precedes the promise. Thinking rich also means you develop emotional wealth. You don't just want financial gain. You want peace, clarity, joy, and purpose. And that comes from living in alignment with truth. You no longer tolerate confusion. You no longer accept toxic environments. You no longer sacrifice your well-being just to please people. You protect your mind like your life depends on it, because it does. You set boundaries, you seek wisdom, you invest in people who stretch you, you walk away from situations that shrink you, because you know that energy is expensive and you can't afford to waste it. A rich mindset is prepared for pressure. It doesn't panic. When things get hard, it leans in. It expects resistance because it knows that diamonds are developed under pressure. It doesn't fold when things fall apart. It finds the lesson and rebuilds stronger. You've got to become that kind of person, the kind who doesn't need perfect conditions to perform, the kind who doesn't need constant motivation to move, the kind who has trained themselves to think with clarity, speak with power, and act with integrity, no matter what season they're in. When you think rich, you stop reacting and start creating. You stop waiting and start working. You stop watching others succeed and start building your own definition of success. You don't compare, you create. You don't criticize, you contribute. You don't shrink, you stretch. And that's when everything begins to change, not because the world is different, but because you are different. You see different, you believe different, you respond different. And over time, that difference compounds into greatness. People with a rich mindset understand that legacy is more valuable than luxury. They know that wealth is about what you leave behind, not just what you live in. They understand that impact outlives income, and so they live every day with a sense of purpose. They work hard, not for applause, but for alignment. They give generously. They serve consistently. They rise early, not for validation, but for vision. Because they understand that every day is a chance to build something that matters. You don't have to fake it to make it. You have to faith it. You have to believe bigger. You have to walk bolder. You have to decide today that you are not waiting on the world to give you permission to think like a person of value. You have already been called. You have already been chosen. And now it's time to start thinking like the person you were always meant to be. That version of you is not on the other side of a paycheck, it's on the other side of your perspective. So shift it, elevate it, guard it, train it. Your life will rise to the level of your thoughts, or it will shrink to the level of your fears. Choose wisely, think rich, and the rest will begin to follow. Thinking rich is not a momentary act of inspiration. It's a relentless, daily commitment to refuse poverty in your thoughts, weakness in your habits, and mediocrity in your standards. It's the resolve to get up and grind when the motivation is gone. It's the discipline to stay focused when distractions feel more comfortable. Rich thinking is not just an attitude, it's a spiritual posture, a mental alignment, a declaration that you refuse to die full of potential. It's not about being flashy, it's about being intentional. You're not trying to look like you've arrived. You're building a life that declares you were never meant to stay where you started. You don't accidentally act rich. You train for it, you sweat for it, you sacrifice for it. Acting rich is not about imitation, it's about transformation. It's what you do when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when no one even knows your name. It's waking up early, staying late, taking notes, sharpening your tools, and never showing up to life unprepared. The people who seem like overnight successes were often in rehearsal while the world was asleep. You don't wait to be discovered. You work until it's impossible to be ignored, because true wealth isn't built in the spotlight. It's forged in the shadows, in the quiet, in the pain, in the pressure. Acting rich means you carry yourself like you've already seen the future you were created for. You walk in rooms with your shoulders back and your head high, not because of arrogance, but because of assurance. You've been through the fire, you've been through disappointment, you've cried through closed doors and kept moving anyway. You don't just show up. You show up ready. You don't perform, you produce. You don't beg, you build. When you act rich, you understand that success is a response to consistency. You don't need shortcuts. You need stamina, and stamina is the fruit of discipline. Some people want the crown, but they don't want the cross. They want the platform, but they don't want the process. You can't have one without the other. Acting rich means you respect the price of your future. You know what it costs. You're willing to pay in sweat, in sacrifice, in silent seasons. You don't complain when the results are slow. You keep showing up because you understand that greatness is not microwaved. It's marinated. It's developed over time. It's tested by storms and revealed through pressure. You don't build a palace with plastic. You build it with patience. When you act rich, you speak with purpose. You don't waste words. You don't gossip. You don't tear down. You don't criticize what you haven't built. You lift others. You speak life. You speak strategy. You speak vision. You don't talk about people. You talk about ideas, innovation, legacy. Your voice becomes a tool of transformation, and you use it to build others, not to elevate yourself. Because you understand that richness is not about what you keep, it's about what you give. It's not about accumulation, it's about multiplication. A rich life multiplies wisdom, multiplies opportunity, multiplies hope. Acting rich also means managing what you have like more is coming. You don't wait to become excellent when you hit some magical level of income or recognition. You're excellent now. You steward what's in your hand like it already represents who you're becoming. You clean your space. You handle your relationships with respect. You dress like you value your presence. You speak like your words carry weight, because they do. Your life is a message, and when you act rich, your habits preach louder than your status ever could. You don't waste energy waiting for someone to validate you. You validate your vision through movement. Acting rich means you don't wait to be called. You step forward with clarity. You don't shrink to fit in. You stretch to lead. You don't fit other people's molds. You break them. You make the tough calls. You face the fear. You handle the pressure, because you know you're not building this life for comfort. You're building it for impact. You're building it for the next generation. You're building it so someone else can walk through doors you kicked down. People who act rich don't have time to envy. They're too busy executing. They're too busy strategizing. They're too busy maximizing the 24 hours they've been given. They're not complaining about competition. They're creating their own lane. And when challenges come, they don't fold. They adapt. They don't see problems as reasons to quit. They see them as the next assignment. Acting rich requires that you stop being driven by your feelings and start being led by your values. You do what needs to be done, not what you feel like doing. You move with intention, even when inspiration is missing. You don't ask for more if you haven't managed less. You don't pray for promotion if you haven't honored the position you're in. You don't expect abundance if you've been careless with what you've already received. A rich life requires responsibility. You've got to be faithful in the small things, show up on time, finish what you start, follow through on your word, handle conflict with grace, be consistent when it's boring. These aren't glamorous things, but they are the groundwork of wealth. Everyone wants the fruit, but very few want to plant the seed and till the soil. But without roots, there is no fruit. When you act rich, you prioritize learning. You don't know it all. You ask questions, you study, you stretch, you stay humble, because the moment you think you've arrived, you've already started falling behind. The most dangerous thing you can do is think you no longer need to grow. People with a rich mindset are always evolving, always upgrading, always refining. They don't resist feedback. They crave it. They understand that feedback isn't criticism, it's construction, and every brick of feedback helps them build higher. Acting rich is not about flaunting wealth. It's about walking in wisdom. It's not about proving your worth. It's about producing fruit. It's not about being loud. It's about being effective. You move quietly, but you move strategically. You don't post every win. You don't announce every step. You stay focused on the mission, and you let your results do the talking. The real ones don't chase noise. They chase purpose. They don't follow trends. They follow truth. They're not trying to go viral. They're trying to go vertical, higher in vision, deeper in purpose, stronger in character. You've got to build systems. You've got to create structure. Success doesn't respond to chaos. It responds to clarity. Acting rich means you organize your life like a business. You budget your time. You schedule your priorities. You set boundaries. You say no when needed. You protect your energy because you know you're not just managing a moment, you're managing momentum. One lazy day turns into a lazy month. One excuse becomes a habit, but one disciplined decision can change your entire trajectory. That's the power of acting rich. It compounds, it multiplies, and eventually it manifests in results no one can deny. You have to hold yourself accountable. You can't rely on external motivation to carry internal responsibility. Acting rich means you set your own standards and hold yourself to them. No one has to chase you down to do your job. No one has to remind you of your mission. You move like someone who's been trusted with vision, like someone who knows the clock is ticking and the world is waiting. You don't waste time. You don't play games with purpose. You move with urgency, because when you act rich, you understand that your life is not your own. It's an assignment, and yes, there will be moments when you feel tired, moments when the reward seems far, moments when no one believes, but that's when your discipline becomes your fuel. That's when your why becomes louder than your weariness. That's when your preparation becomes your power. Acting rich means you stay ready. You stay focused, you stay faithful, you build when it's hard, you build when it's lonely, you build when it doesn't make sense, because you know that what you're building isn't just for you, it's for those watching you, those coming after you, those counting on you to make it, and eventually something shifts. The mindset becomes movement, the habits become harvest, the faith becomes fulfillment. You start walking into rooms you once dreamed about. You start having conversations you once prayed for, and when people ask how you got there, you won't have to say much, because your consistency will speak, your preparation will speak, your integrity will speak, your discipline will speak. That's what it means to act rich. You don't just look the part, you live the part, you build the life, you carry the weight, and you leave a mark that can't be erased, so now you've got the blueprint. Think rich, because your mind is the factory where your future is manufactured. Act rich, because your actions are the proof that you believe in what you say. Don't let fear rent space in your soul. Don't let excuses rob your destiny. The world doesn't need another person playing small. It needs the full force of who you were created to be. It's time to walk like the door is already open. It's time to speak like the vision is already funded. It's time to move like heaven has already co-signed your purpose, because when you think rich and act rich, you don't just change your life, you change generations.